So my youngest daughter, Alana, I think most of my kids take after me in one way or another. And she was at a Bible course one time, and the pastor, it wasn't me, was asking the question of everyone in the class, saying, "Can you give me some examples of Christ's love, some practical examples? What did Jesus do that showed God's love for us?" And there were some classic answers of, he died for us. We'll read next week that he loved the world so much that Christ died for us, gave us his son. My daughter, though, says to them, well, he made a whip of cords and threw them out of the church, the synagogue of the time. And most of the other students either laughed or were saying, no, that's not love. And the pastor actually stopped and said, no, Alana's right, that is love. Why? Why is that love? We think oftentimes that love is only the gentle things or the calm things. But this reading that we have today, we can't avoid that if Jesus is God come in flesh, there are times when he is tough love. And it is loving. I had a conversation this week with a friend of mine who's also a United Church minister, and he was very helpful in something he said about how we, and our goal of preaching in that, he said that we should be carefree, but not careless. Carefree, but not careless. And I'm guilty sometimes of being careless, and it's going to happen at times. There are times, and I have stood up here and apologized for things I've said or got wrong, and I hope I would always do that if that's the case. But I also realized something else as I was talking to him about that. There is that element of being carefree and not careless, but there's another error we make as Christian pastors, and that's not speaking the truth boldly. And I've been guilty of both sides of doing this. But I realized something as I've been pondering this, and I realized something, I think it's funny, maybe you won't find it funny, I find it funny, is that hopefully most of us will apologize when we're careless, but I don't know any pastor that stood up and has said, I apologize for keeping everything calm and when I shouldn't have, because no one knows. It is, in the traditional sense of the word, a sin of omission rather than a sin of commission. Commission is when we do something wrong, right? But there is a sin of omission. It's when we should speak and we don't speak, for example, would be a sin of omission. And that is part of our call as pastors and preachers. And I'm always hesitant, but I seem to end up using my own life as an example. But it's probably because I know that the best. And this week in particular has had a lot of ups and downs. And for me, one of the most clear things that came to mind for me is this temptation of Christ. It really hit home to me, this last one. All of them have, but this last one in particular. As Jesus is taken by Satan over to look over all the kingdoms of the world. And he says to him, you can have all of this, just bow down and worship me. And for me, it was an element of, this is the only way I guess I can talk about it with you. I've had some very close people I love and respect very much, who have said to me recently as I've returned, they said, Mark, you only got 3.5 years left. Just coast. Just coast. And I tried it. I tried coasting. It's not that bad, really. Don't make waves. Don't say anything that gets someone upset. I don't do that on purpose, but not usually. Once in a while I do it on purpose, but usually I don't do that on purpose. But I realized that, and it became very clear this week in prayer to me, that theirs was my choice. Would I bow down to just coasting? Because why wouldn't I be threatened? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not saying any of these things could happen, but I want job security like anyone. I want to be sure I can provide for my family like anyone would want to. Well, what happens if something goes wrong and I can't? Whether that's for a reason I don't know about or for some other reason, because I say something I maybe shouldn't have said or some think I shouldn't have said. And it was in that moment that I said, no, I choose to serve the Lord. I choose. I have 3.5 years left, if you'll have me. I have 3.5 years left if the Lord keeps me healthy. I have 3.5 years left that I'm committing to, and I will do my utmost to speak what I believe God has me to speak to you. Some days, I hope most days, it'll be very positive. Some days it might not be. I don't know sometimes. But I commit to you, to each and every one of you. Every one of you. My job, part of my job, is to help you meet a good death, whatever age you are, by the way. And a good death is to know Jesus Christ, to know him in your life, to know the peace and love of God in your life, to help you to live that as individuals and also as a community. And I'll do my best. And I'll speak what I believe God is saying for me to speak. But I ask something of you as well, which I've said before, and I'll repeat again. Please, if you find offense or if you find you really can't stand what I'm saying, come speak to me. I'm really not that bad a guy. Come speak to me. This is partly joking, but partly not. I think this would be kind of interesting if we could do this. You know, one of our problems we have in the church as a whole, it's not just this church, it's almost every church, gossip. I have some friends that are really big on certain sins they think are really bad, and I, based on another daughter of mine, I said we should make a shirt up for them. My favorite sin is gossip. Get a t-shirt for them. Because they go off on all the other bad sins that are out there, but they don't deal with the one they're doing all the time, that most of us do a lot, me included. We gossip. Well, what is gossip? Gossip is, by the way, it's not just, one way I can tell you for sure it's gossip is if it's not the truth. That's one thing that's evident. Or if you're not sure it's the truth. Don't be spreading things you don't know aren't the truth. But even if it is the truth, sometimes it can still be gossip. Well, how? When it's done from a bad heart or a bad place, and it's bad about people. That's pretty well about the best definition you could have. When you speak behind people's back, whoever that is, I'll give you, there are some exceptions. We always have to listen to God in this, right? One of the exceptions would be you're having a problem with someone, so you go, well, maybe to the minister, but maybe to a close friend, and you say, look, I don't know how to talk to them. Or maybe it's the minister you can't talk to. I don't know how to talk to Mark. So you go to someone and say, you don't talk about me and my problems, which I do have. If you're talking to them, you're talking about, how can I approach him? Maybe you need someone to come with you. Would you come with me? And I need to do the same. So I was thinking, this is the joking part, I was thinking, this is Lent, right? We're supposed to give something up. I don't know whether some of you have. How about all of us, for 1 month, we got about 1 month left of Lent, we don't gossip for 1 month. Can we do that? Everyone. We don't gossip for 1 month. Right after, I said this part I said, by the way, at Island Park. And after the church service was over, one lady comes up to me and she says, oh, you know that lady that was here, she turned 100, and then she stops, she goes, is that gossip? Did I just do it already? We were just laughing about it, right? Because you can laugh about it too, that when we get things wrong, we can laugh about it. And I said, no, that is not gossip. This is a joyful celebration you're sharing with us. That is not gossip. If you're telling me, well, hopefully at 100, you never know, but if you're telling me, you know, that she's sleeping around with someone in the home, no, that's gossip. I don't need to know this. It's not my business. Don't need to know. Don't want to know. all right? But that's just that's an extreme example, but that's the type of thing we're talking about, the difference, right? It's good to share good news with one another. And sometimes it is okay to share if it's permissible from them. That's why sometimes you'll ask me and say, well, how's so-and-so doing? And I might be only say to you, they're not well, they ask for prayer. I usually ask the people I'm talking to or giving pastoral support, how much can I tell others? Because it's really almost always their story to tell. That's another way to tell gossip. Is it my story to tell? Or is it someone else's story to tell? I don't know whether we can do that. But anyways, back to the temptation, because we all have temptations, right? This is one of them. But this temptation today is particularly interesting because we have Jesus taken to this high mountain, and the devil shows him everything. This is really about greed, right? You are not what you have. Remember those three? You're not what you do. You are not who people say you are. You are not what you have. And that was the temptation for me, to have security, right? I could have security, but I'm not what I have. And it's better to lose what I have, but to serve God. I hope that isn't the case. But sometimes that is the case. For all of us. Maybe before I get back to this, I'll give you one more example from a friend of mine a long time ago. He was my manager in a computer store that I worked at, Bruce, his name was. And Bruce told me the story. One day we were just sitting around talking, and he told me the story about how he had worked in another computer store as a manager in Toronto. And this person came in with a broken computer, and they said they wanted to return it. And he went to the owner, who was there at the time, and the owner said to him, yeah, there's some in the back, just replace it with one of those. Well, he went to the back, they were all broken. So he went to the owner and he said, well, those are broken. Well, the customer doesn't know. You see, there's always choices. Now, he wasn't a man of faith at that time, but he may not have put it in the idea of, bowing to God or bowing to mammon, to money, but it's easily seen in that light. He had a choice. And he said, no. And he was fired. You see, all of these times we can have choices about what we do. Maybe your situation's different. Maybe the temptation will come, and it is a temptation. So coming back to Jesus, I think sometimes when we hear this story, we think, oh, it just happened so quick because we read it so quickly. There he is. He's taken to this high mountain. He's shown all of this. The devil says to him, look, I'll give you all of this if you'll just bow down and worship me. And we hear right away the answer, well, no. But we don't know. And I am speculating. This isn't in the scriptures, but we don't know how long this temptation took place. We don't know how long Jesus thought about it. And I think it is okay to speculate about what he might have been going through Jesus' mind at that point. We don't know for sure. But wouldn't he have had time to think about it? Time to, because he did know, because he told Peter later, when he tells off Peter when Peter doesn't like it, he knows the other path. Okay, so here's one path. Bow down to me, you can have all the kingdoms, everything. I'll give it all to you. The other path, well, that's a really nice looking path, isn't it? Crucifixion, suffering, torture. Torture, suffering, or just bow down to you. Do you not think he might have taken his time, I think, about this and thought, wow. You see, I think temptation, we haven't caved into temptation till we know we've made the decision about it. And sometimes the temptation can actually be experiencing it for a while. This is what it would be like. Here's my choices. Here's what I can do or not do. And it's not always an easy choice. That wouldn't still be an easy choice, would it? To choose the path of suffering? This often reminds me of, is it Robert Frost's poem? The two roads. I took the one less traveled, and that has meant the difference. But the one that he chose too, even in his poem, is the rougher one, right? Sometimes our choices, we think, well, we want the easy way, don't we? Of course most of us want the easy way. That's why it's a temptation. You see, it's not a temptation. I don't think we understand it correctly if we go, oh, well, Jesus just, no problem, right? We almost make it look like there wasn't any temptation. But here's the way I would describe it. I like to use cake because I like cake. Anyone not like cake? Shoot, I need to use something else. Pie. Everyone like pie? Anyone not like pie?
Ice cream.
You don't like pie?
I don't like pastry.
All right. So if I put on your counter a pie, you would not be tempted in the least to even take it.
No.
Right. See? Denise would not be tempted. Now Mark would be walking by that every time going, in fact, Mark has done this. He even takes a little bit every time. And then sometimes my family goes, how come that looks smaller? I don't know. Why do you think? But see, that's a temptation. It's not a temptation unless we're actually tempted to do that. And when we say these are temptations, Jesus must have been tempted, or they wouldn't have been a temptation. He must have at least considered the other options. Maybe I should just, I'm really hungry. Maybe I should just turn these stones into loaves of bread. You know, the Bible does say in Psalm 91 that the angels will look after me, and he's saying this is what applies to me, so maybe I should just do it. Or maybe I could just have all the kingdoms of the world, just do this one thing. It'd be a lot easier. I wouldn't have to be forced this path. But Jesus ends up by quoting from Exodus, quoting the law. Get away from me, Satan. For it is written, you shall serve the Lord your God and worship only him, no other. And that is the call for each and every one of us, to serve the Lord our God. It's not an easy path. Jesus himself says that. But it's a good path. And it's the right path. And believe it or not, it brings joy. It did for Jesus. He had his moments, but it also brought him joy. And it brings us joy when we choose that other path too. Because there's a freedom. And then you can be carefree, not careless, not overly worried about everything that you're going to say, but carefree. I can say, I love you. I love you. I love each and every one of you. And sometimes that'll mean, might tell you you're not doing right. How about a little joke to end? Maybe lighten things up a little bit. I don't know if this will go over well. I'll do it anyways. All right, here's one of those things. If you get offended, now you need to come and talk to me. So I saw this cartoon, and it was trying to show the difference between how women talk to one another and men talk to one another. And the first one is a woman saying, oh, do you think I'm fat? And the woman says, no. The other woman says, no, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. And then the guy says to his friend, who's a guy, says, am I fat? And the other guy says, I know 5 fat people, and you're 4 of them. I actually shared that with my friend, and it was bizarre because he texted me back right away. He's in BC, and he texted me back, says, Mark, this is so bizarre. I was just watching a video on the difference between men and women, and just before it got to me, you sent this. And I said to him, I replied, I said, great minds, fools, pick one, right? You know, great minds think alike, fools seldom differ. And he says, well, I pick fools, but I know what you'd say, Mark. You'd say, yeah, I know 5 fools, and you're 4 of them. And I put a thumbs up. I said, absolutely, absolutely. My love is not perfect. I will make many mistakes. I still got 3.5 years to do it. Well, after that too, but up here, 3.5 years. I will make mistakes. I want to serve you well. Speak to me. Let's work together. let's find the path God has for us. Peace be with you. $684.